if you're a founder, or if you're running a startup business, and you want to find ways to partner with other businesses, in kind of related fields to help you with growing your business, is LinkedIn a good way of doing that? And what are some of the ways that you might go about doing that? I know I've got some ideas on that, but I'd love to hear any you might have as well.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn's a great place to find partners for sure. And I've definitely found partners in the past. And again, it's a case of, using the search bar or leaning into your existing network. If you've got somebody in mind, just asking other people and saying, do you know somebody who's an expert in XYZ? And just putting it out there. I've definitely found one business bestie on LinkedIn from doing it. So it definitely works. It's all, if you don't ask, you don't get. I think you can find so many people on LinkedIn, whether they're partners, suppliers, leads, clients, maybe it's even just audience building. You want to expand, you want to get on a podcast, you want to get on a LinkedIn Live, you want to speak to a membership group like this group today. I just think everyone is on LinkedIn at the touch of your fingertips. It's a case of asking. So if you want to reach out directly to somebody, like we mentioned earlier, commenting is so powerful. If you're a bit shy as to reach out to them directly, bring up their profile, bring up their content and start to engage, and then go in with a connection request, and they will recognize you. They'll be like, oh, that's that lady or man who commented. So that might feel more natural for you. Or bring them up and see if you've got a mutual connection. You could bring them up and go, hey, Tony knows Mary at XY, or Jen knows, and don't be shy to say, hi, Tony, I really would love to speak to Mark at ABC. Can you give me an introduction? I think it's always good to give a line or two as to why you want the introduction, just so that person knows why. And I think most people in good faith will give it to you, so don't be afraid to ask. I'm a big believer, if you don't ask, you don't get. I mean, sometimes you will get opportunities without asking, but I think the more you can lean in and realize that LinkedIn is more powerful than your first degree connections. So sometimes you're only one person away from an amazing opportunity or an amazing partner, and just realizing you can lean in and ask, and what's the worst that happens? They go quiet on you, find someone else. And I do think definitely the commenting on the content is a good, if they don't come back to you on that, go on their company page. But and then, like I said, a shared connection. If that one doesn't work, another shared connection. You will get to them eventually.
I think what I would really draw attention to, and everyone's had experience of this, is when you feel sold to, it's much less likely to start a conversation. So actually, what's really interesting about that question for me is that partnerships is the obvious way to get business wins from LinkedIn. It's also the obvious way to make sales if what you're trying to do on LinkedIn is make sales. Because if you imagine, receiving a message from me and I'm looking to try and get a meeting with you to find out if you need help with your social media, then you feel sold to.
Yeah.
Whereas if I reach out to you and say, look, I'm organizing this event, or I'm going to be producing this report, and I'd love to get you involved in it, then it is a win-win situation, and you're partnering with someone to achieve something together. But that starts a conversation. And that conversation could lead anywhere. If you're talking to a potential customer, that could easily turn into a conversation about how you might help them. But actually, partnership is the easiest way, I would say, to get business wins from LinkedIn. Just if we take our business as an example, we could say, okay, let's organize an event to help recruitment businesses to market themselves more effectively. Now, we don't do email marketing, we don't do Google pay-per-click, we don't do SEO. So there's loads of different types of marketing we don't do, but that recruitment businesses would be interested in. So I could find and reach out to other business owners who do all of those things, and we join forces and say, okay, we're gonna run a 2-hour session, and each of us is going to talk for 20 minutes on one particular area of marketing, and then we're all going to pool our collective networks to get people along to that event. And that's a win-win. But if I approach those business owners with that idea in mind, they don't feel like they're being sold to. They feel like, this is a potentially interesting opportunity. So, so yeah, I would say definitely LinkedIn is a great place for doing that. But I would say even more than that, with whatever you're trying to do on LinkedIn, if you can try and turn it into a discussion where it is a win-win or a partnership for you to actually be having a meeting or a call, then whatever you're trying to achieve on LinkedIn, you're probably going to get more yeses than you otherwise would. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And I think my main thing is always make people feel special, and not enough people do that on LinkedIn. They're either going in and selling in the first message, and they're making it about them, and it's like you always have to make it about the other person and make it a win-win. And I think if you take the time, whether it's even like a simple comment on their content, I love that post you did last week, and you actually explain why, you're going to massively stand out, because most people don't take the time. I know one of my clients, she reached out to an author last week. She's reading their book, and she said, "Oh, I'd love to connect. I'm reading your book. I love what you said on page 37, paragraph 1, blah, blah, blah." And the author was blown away and has gone on a call with her. So, make people feel special, and it will reap dividends. It's, people, it's not that people don't want to be sold to, but they want to be sold to in the right context. And I think a lot of people treat LinkedIn like Amazon Marketplace, and it's like, if you're in the right conversation, it's okay to kind of, here's my diary, let's get on a call. It's like me, if somebody starts chatting and saying, do you know what, I watched the call with Tony today and I think I need some help with LinkedIn, blah, 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 then it's natural for me to say, okay, let's chat. But if I just go in and straight away, it's too much, and it's a bit like, it's not the right time and place. And I think, you have to make people feel special. And I love what you said about the partnership, that you can make it, that much bigger and far reaching. And I think a lot of people have like tunnel vision on LinkedIn. They're like, oh, my direct client isn't on there. And most of the time their direct client is, but they're like, oh, I don't think so. But I'm like, well, think outside the box. So for example, you could be someone like a photographer or a makeup artist, or a hairdresser even. And, like the hairdresser and makeup artist might be a bit like, oh, I only work in this specific area. And I'm like, well, what if you were to partner up with somebody like an event manager who's doing a conference for your ideal client, whether it's virtual or in person? So instead of just like focusing on one client, you get exposure to 10,000 or 100,000 of that event. And I think lots of people are just like, oh, just this is it. But I'm like, if you actually, like you said, connect, it could be a summit, and you get exposure to so many different networks. So it's about thinking outside the box and bigger. Whereas a lot are just like, oh, my immediate client's not here. And I'm like, well, they are here. But anyway, besides that point, there's like nearly 900 million people on LinkedIn. They're all here. But there's amazing opportunities if you lean in. And like I said, partnership is a fun thing to do as well. It takes the pressure off. If you're both promoting an event, you both get exposure to each other's audience. It's like, I'm going to share this recording, so my audience will get to know Tony, and then vice versa. So I think, it's a great thing to do, partnering.